Welcome back to Duel podcast with your hosts Alicia Solomon and Megan Hines, where every week we talk all things a challenge. And this week we're back again to talk about Challenge Ride or Dies, episode 4. This episode is actually named after Olivia, but also I just want to give a quick shout out to our birthday people for this week. Because we had two, and one of them came on this episode. Darrell's birthday is today, the day we're recording this, and Nelson's birthday was about 2 days ago. So I just want to say happy birthday to both of them.
Shout out to the Scorpios.
Yes, and we're gonna get into the episode. Like I said, we get Darrell and Veronica's return to the show, and their latest surprise for the rest of the cast. And TJ went through their resumes, like how you already know, like Darrell won 4 times in a row. Veronica has run as much as she's won, and they're both badasses. And also how they won together on the Gauntlet, which I totally forgot and I watched that season. No, I watched Gauntlet too, but I forgot about Gauntlet. But it was just great to see them back and how seeing everyone else very excited as well because they are the epitome of challenge OGs at this point in the game.
I mean, it's always good to see Darrell and Veronica coming back. Veronica coming back on the main show after a hiatus. We saw her on All Stars, but her being on the main show, coming in with all these rookies that's in the house, it's good to see them back. However, I wish that it was just like a little bit more balanced because I feel like every single week they kept bringing in more vets, more vets, more vets. And it's like we already see where this is going, where it's going to be rookies against vets, as it always is.
Yeah.
And some people are in the middle of it, like Amber. She's on the borderline because she's won before, but also they don't really mess with her like that. So she's sided with rookies. It's just a weird dynamic that's happened in the house, especially after bringing in the vets that they did.
Yeah. I remember I saw something on Twitter where Veronica had made a joke that Cara and Polly were coming in later on in the episode, but it didn't make air. But it would have been funny if they still kept bringing in at least a couple of vets this episode, and that would have been the case. But once that happened, once she said that, people were like, no, and allegedly people would have quit if they even came in as heavy hitters. So that would have been funny to see.
Yeah, I know that. I heard that clip on the official podcast for the challenge where they were talking about how people were threatening to walk off if Cara and Polly came back, or Cara and CT. And it's like I actually wish you guys would walk off. Some of you, like, some of you need to go home permanently and don't come back. But and also I don't even know why they're not calling Cara back. Like, she would have been perfect for this. Paulie, we could take or leave him. I leave him, but Cara is cool.
Yeah, because her trajectory, I know we're gonna get back into the actual episode, but her trajectory throughout her time on the show has been a delight to see, even when it kind of went sour. She still has a fan base that still rock her to this day, and they want to see her back on the TV no matter what. So hopefully in the near future that happens, but we're gonna just take whatever crumbs they give us and accept it for what it is. So back into the episode. Amber was very excited to see Darrell because, as we know, like they were partners on her first season on Double Agents, and she ended up winning. And she was excited to see him. Hopefully, they be able to work together. And she was just glad to see someone that would probably actually be in her corner because the other vets, like you said, have her at the bottom of whatever they got going on, and for her, she needs somebody to be in her corner with her besides Chauncey. And next we are seeing Tommy and Elise scrambling back at the house to apologize to Olivia. And Horacio was just walking around pissed off, like was still like in his feelings. And I remember was like trying to make deals, like we mentioned last week, while on a bubble to go in and you're making those people who might go in as well was not smart. They tried to big brother the challenge and it did not work. And now they're here just scrambling, trying to figure out like, hey, okay, what is the next move? And making all these excuses because it wasn't helping them at all.
Yeah, I mean, and we see how their time on the show unravels this week, but I just think that given the fact that they went against their word in front of everyone, that just didn't help. Like seeing their downfall last week and how they turned their backs on Olivia and Horatio, and especially because Olivia and Horatio are a threat to people in the house because of their duo. I just think that people are just like they're not gonna want to be paired or near any of them. And so Tommy and Alice didn't really have anyone to begin with. And I think that they were banking on having some big brother folks in the house, like Fessel, like whoever else, Amber B, Casey. Maybe they thought that, some of those people would be on their side because they're a big brother. But I think that they are already established relationships with some of the vets because they've been on these past couple of seasons. And so it's easier for them to not really cling to that BB alliance, quote unquote, because even though Tommy and Annalise are big brother, they really don't have any ties with those other folks.
Yeah, because Tommy and Lisa's season was after Billions was after their season actually was after Fessy and Casey's, but I never seen them interact with them after they got out of the Big Brother house. So I'm like, okay, you're coming into the show. Yes, you're BB, but you have no actual relationship with these people either. So you can't just bank on them like, oh, since you're BB, I'm take you in. That's not happening because they, like you said, they have pre-existing relationships, and that's going to take precedence over them. And they're rookies. They're going to be on their own because these vets don't care about the rookies at all, and they also don't care about Amber. But Amber doesn't know them either like that either, so that didn't bode well for them. And Olivia did tell them that they will continue to be thrown into the zone because everyone saw what happened and they're not going to trust them at all. So they have to just be ready to just go in every time because you can't just try to talk yourself out when people literally saw you guys be double crossing people. It's not going to work like that. And Horatio was talking to Laurel in the room, and he told her he wasn't really trying to play a social game. He just wants to just show up and perform. That's it. But Laura told him that he had to take it on the chin for a bit, and then after that, we got a glimpse of them flirting a bit. And Laura was like, "Oh, we literally are a bed away from each other," and they showed a clip of them just sleeping next to each other.
Great. Lovely.
Yeah,
I have the
but
floor to Laurel. Girl, what do you think? Oh, you want me to say?
and then Chauncey makes this claim that Amber was the leader of the rookies for the season. And immediately I wrote in my notes, why is he setting my good sis up? Because she's about to get dragged because you said that. Because she don't talk game to these girls at all like that. We see her talking to them in that clip with her, Olivia, and Nerese.
Nari-
But there wasn't much like actual game talk with them. Like she's not leading the charge with the rookie girls.
I think just because she probably has more of a connection with them because the other vets are not aligned with her, it's easier for him to say that she would be the head of that because she's won a challenge already. This is her third season coming back, and she has a little bit more experience and time with some of the people in the house. Now, Nerese is one of the other ones who was quote unquote placed with a vet in Nelson, but we've seen how Nelson and his relationships either he's not really all in or he just wants to focus on whatever else he's focused on, which is other people in the house. So it's hard to say that Nerese had guidance with Nelson because it's like Nelson kind of just floats, and somehow sometimes he makes it to the finals, and then sometimes he just, ends up flopping and goes home. But I can see why Chauncey would say that. He's just trying to gas Amber up. That's his girl. He's gonna just make her seem hotter than what she is. Not trying to be shady, but like he's just gonna make it seem like she's the HBSC in the house, whether she is or whether she's not. So it's just gassing her up essentially.
Yeah, but they I'll get to a tweet later in the Twitter segment because somebody has something to say about that. Um, and Nerese in that conversation mentioned that even though like Nelson had the vets, she had the Rickies to rely on in the event like they did have some type of power. Um, and seeing how like they kind of like figure out how to put someone in to zone, we'll see that sometime soon because this man at this point has not won anything and he was holding out on faith on trying to get a win. And then at the bonfire, we saw Colleen and Fessy. There's a lot of showmances happening this episode. I'm like, okay, well, all right, y'all trying to turn into Love Island. I see y'all. Colleen and Fessy were getting cozier, and they expressed how their interests kind of grew even more with one another in their confessionals. Because even we already know, like in the first couple episodes, we saw him um, talking to Laurel and Annalise, Colleen, and I forgot the other person. And now he's had full focus on Colleen and trying to build whatever it is with her.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who that fourth person was too, because I forgot. But nonetheless, Fessy was moving. Fessy face, so sorry. Um, he was definitely moving and shaking a lot this season in terms of the women that he was dealing with. And I think for him and Colleen is somebody who low key, I see why Sis won the mole for in Germany, because the way that she's able to move in these situations, you, I see the plotting. I see it. I see it. I see it. I see it, sis. Do your thing. But for Fessy and for dealing with all these other women in the house, he actually contained the relationships really well. We didn't really see a lot of arguing and a lot of back and forth, unlike we saw last season with, Ashley and whoever else she was going at it with about Nelson. And so, like,
Berna.
I feel like this season, yes, but I feel like this season with Fessy dealing with like four different women in the house at the same time, and they're all in the house at the same time. Not this happened, staggerly. Like this happened all while they were in the house together. It's really giving sister wives. It's giving concubine, and shout out to Fessy for holding it down between all those women. But I feel like Colleen had more of his attention. But you know, Colleen and I mean, this is gonna phase anyway. He's one of those people that he falls in love, and then like 2 seconds later, it's on to the next person, which is why him and Mariah is cool. Like they didn't work out, but they worked together well in this situation. So, I mean, for the time being, him and Colleen is cool, but they're definitely gonna fall out.
Yeah. And then we saw Tori and Jordan cuddling in the bed. And then we saw Nelson and Olivia also hooking up. And he was like, I love love. Love loves me as well. And I'm like, okay. We've seen how love has done you in the past, Nelson, and hasn't been kind to you. Um, so that was just baffling me. I'm like, okay, this is still a thing. Okay, we'll see how this goes. Um, Then next day, Nelson tells Jay that Fessy isn't safe, especially since in his mind, like he threw Olivia in when he won, and he was going through like his thought process, like if he like wins, like it's gonna be a little bit difficult. But I feel like Fessy would be on his radar if he did. But he said he didn't want to win because he didn't want that power, and he didn't want to get his hands dirty.
I mean, he doesn't have a history of winning, so it's easier for him to say that. But you know, let's continue on.
Yes. And the Rough Riders anthem plays as they walk up to the next challenge and stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. Once those lyrics are playing, I'm like, this is not going to bode well for Darrell because he already was like, we already know he don't like heights, and this is like the epitome of what this next city challenge is going to be. And Darrell did say like TJ wanted to see if he was about to laugh again, and I'm like, this is going to be interesting because they were 300 feet up in the air.
I mean, it's a perfect challenge to welcome Darrell back in. I know TJ was having fun with it when they all walked into the platform and Darrell looked up and everyone looked at Darrell like, Darrell, this is all you, player. And he's just like, damn, like, I've come back to the challenge and this is the first challenge that I have to do. It's getting real. But nonetheless, he took it in stride because he promised his daughter, he said, told her that you can grow without being with in out without comfort. So I really do appreciate that quote from Darrell because it is true. You don't grow if you're not comfortable. If you're comfortable, but at the same time, I think that Darrell has like the past couple of seasons, especially with him coming back. The Heights challenge always seems to get him. And All Stars, he literally just quit. It's just too much. But I think, and I've always been like, this is just the one flaw that Darrell has in his game. It's just that the Heights just come on, bro. Like you know what's gonna happen every single time. So him getting through it, him being on the platform and still walking out and being part of that first heat and getting through it, I think it's like, all right, he's on the other side of whatever that fear is, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Um, in that quote, I'm gonna get to that. Hold on. I'm gonna because the rest of that end of that quote had me laughing because even if like your daddy is uncomfortable, like the end of that quote was having me funny. Like, yo, I'm uncomfortable with this, but I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah.
And this challenge, it was called Hold On To Me, where within 5 heats, one player will be suspended on the edge of the roof by the platform and as long as possible. And when they're about to drop, the partner must jump off the ledge to grab their flag. This, I was not sure how this is actually going to be. I'm like, this is weird and crazy at the same time. But I didn't understand how it was going to be executed until I actually saw it. I was just like, wait, huh? But yeah.
uh, I mean, the challenge itself, I feel like only two people figured out what to actually do with the challenge. But I mean, in general, it was just like it was just one or done. Like if you don't get it, that's it. Which I actually liked about it because sometimes you give people multiple chances and they kind of figure out techniques and stuff like that. But it's just like, no, you got one shot to do this, which I actually liked.
Yeah. Because I remember at one point when Kim and Colleen went, they're like, can we go again? I'm like, no, you can't go again. Like, it's one time.
Right.
That's it. And if they cannot grab the flag, the pair is disqualified. And the team who hangs on the longest and grabs their flag will win. And in Heat 1, like you mentioned, Darrell and Veronica were in that one with Jack and Laurel and Kenny and Casey, who I literally have not heard from at all, and I'm glad, but I just want them gone. um, and Jack and Laurel did their jump first, and then the shorties went after them, but they couldn't reach their flag. Um, and then Veronica did her jump, but she could barely grab onto Darrell's foot, and they ended up being disqualified.
And she barely grabbed onto his toe. Like she just completely slipped off the platform. Like I don't even know where she was grabbing on Darrell. And I mean, just the point that Darrell even made it on the platform was hanging off the edge of the building. I'm just gonna give him props for and his points for that.
Yeah, and then like once like they were together, and they kind of dropped. He was like, he looked down for a second, like, oh damn, I should have looked down. Like, you did
Right.
fine, you did good. That's all that matters. You completed the challenge, even though you got disqualified. You completed it. That's all that matters. And in Heat 2, we had Jay and Michelle with Amber and Chauncey and Bananas and Nani. And Chauncey is a person who doesn't like heights, and he had to try and get over that fear. Um, and Bananas and Nani were immediately disqualified, followed by Jay and Michelle. And also, nobody in this heat even caught the flag either. Like, everyone had just jumped
Everyone
and didn't
DQ'd.
catch it. Yeah,
Everyone DQ'd. That was it.
yeah. And in Heat 3, we had Anissa and Jordan, Mariah and Fessel, and Tori and Devin. And Jordan's strategy was that he was going to be the jumper for him and Anissa. Along with Devin, he decided to be the jumper for him and Tori. And as they were like trying to figure out the right timing to do the jump, Anissa gave Jordan a look that he said to do the jump. And in his confession, he's like, "I'm gonna be Tom Cruise. I'll be in my movie star bag. I'm ready for this moment." And he did the jump. Him and Anissa were able to grab on to each other, and Jordan managed to grab the flag. And then Tori and Devin were disqualified, and Fessy could not grab the flag after Mariah's jump. So the only people from that heat to grab the flag were Jordan and Anissa.
Yeah, which they were the only two, like I said, the only two people out of this whole challenge who figured out that the momentum needed was not from the women because they weren't going to be jumping on the men hanging on that hard. It was going to be the men kind of giving their strength to push whatever they had, onto the women and get that momentum to swing back because it was the flag was only so close to them, and it was just like they weren't able to, no one was able to do it like the men jumping onto the women. So Jordan and Anissa, I mean, shout out to her for even getting through the challenge again. This is like another challenge that we see her and Jordan just partnering through it. And I think that it's good for Anissa to have somebody like this because it helps boost her confidence going through this whole challenge and being back in the house. However, it's just like I wish that we would just see the end of this. Like just I just end it already. It's just like damn.
Yeah, like I like that she does have a partner that is very encouraging. Aside from that, her and this partnership we have with Fessy, but that's in the past. In Heat 4, we had Colleen and Kim and Tommy and Annalise. And as they're getting ready to do the jumps, Colleen was like, "Hit me like an elephant," in response to Kim. She was like, "Oh no." Colleen was like trying to be like a bird. And Kim was like, "Hey, no, no, girl. You need to be an elephant. Gotta hit me like an elephant." And I liked how like they were trying to get hyped up for this because we didn't see anyone else like really like do anything, but I liked how they managed to get their confidence up for this challenge.
I mean, they've been solid the whole time. I think that they have a good chemistry with each other.
Yeah. Because even like later on episode, they're like, "Oh, we're like twins. We are literally the same," and it shows because their chemistry has been top notch so far this season. And Tommy and Elise, they did their jump. And when Annalise did the jump, Tommy was up there looking like he was on a Titanic, looked like he was doing a skating with his arms up. And everybody's like, "Sir, what are you doing? Grab the flag." He just did that. I'm like, what? Did you not hear the last part of that challenge where you had to grab the flag?
No, I mean, I just for these two again, Long Island's favorite couple. I don't know what he was on top of there doing. Like Tommy Yamaguchi, it's not the time nor the place for you to be floating your arms up in the sky when you literally have to reach behind you and catch the flag. And he thought about it way too late because he was trying to be cute about it when she grabbed onto him. And she actually gave him good momentum because Annalise is a little bit taller and bigger than Tommy. She actually gave him a little bit more momentum where he could have actually reached back and got it. But because he was so far up his own ass and couldn't really realize the moment and time and place, he just fumbled that. And that was just one more thing added on top of the things that he was just fumbling this episode, but for Annalise. But honestly, I just think that like that they're unserious people.
Yeah. I do like how Annalise was really trying at least this week. And Tommy was just like the other half that could not go. Like she was excited to like really compete this week and really like try to like get themselves out of that hole last week. But Tommy is the one that's really her downfall this episode. Because she is an athlete. Like she's built for this show, like in a physical sense. I'm not gonna give her credit on the social sense, but on the physical sense, she works for the show. Like she has the capability to compete with everybody else. But it's her partner that is not doing anything. He's not contributing anything. He's like, I don't want to say this. I'm gonna say it. When it was like a couple years ago, when the Warriors were doing well, and Clay was just sitting there, like I contributed something, and he was just sitting there. Like it's really that you're just there for the ride. You're not contributing anything. He's just like he mentioned. He's the mouth, and she is everything else. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sir, that's not what you're on the show for. Like you can't cash the stuff you say and not prove anything. Like you're not proving anything. You're showing that even if they keep you in this house moving forward, y'all are a layup. And y'all gonna be easy to beat because y'all can't do nothing together.
Right.
And with that, we're gonna move on to Heat 5 with Olivia and Harcia and Nelson and Reese. And Nelson and Reese, they had a similar strategy to Jordan and Anissa, where Nelson was a jumper and Reese was hanging on the side. And they got their jump right and they were able to grab the flag. And I was very excited. I'm like, yo, first time in a very long time where we saw Nelson kind of in the top of the standings because he actually completed it and did very well. And then Olivia and Horacio, they disqualified. They didn't get the flag.
Yeah, I mean, a recent Nelson getting to actually complete it out of two other people because literally everyone else DQ'd. I mean, that's being on the right track. And I think that the running theme and running joke this past couple of weeks with Nelson in particular was that he hasn't won a daily challenge. And so I think that, they were just going to keep feeding the narrative until at least he was close to it. And now that he had the opportunity to be in the runnings, I mean, let's, yeah, it's good for him.
Yeah, it helps the morale. Like he was down now. Like I don't want to hear it no more about me not winning anything. But this was really a good morale boost for him. And so with Anissa and Jordan and Nelson and Reese being the only two to complete the daily, we had to figure out who actually held on the longest. And the pair that held on the longest was Norris and Nelson. And we in turn now have Nelson's first win within 54 dailies. That's
Yeah, which
crazy.
is an interesting stat. I want to know if they got that from like one of the fan pages or if they were keeping track because Nelson is just, I mean, Nelson is cool, but he's such an obscure person to remember that stat about. So I was always like curious on why they kept going with that running joke this season. But congratulations to Nelson for winning, and congratulations to Reese, who's a rookie who won. And now that leaves kind of them being in the middle of the pack and what to do because Nerese has one plan in being able to secure rookie spots in this house so that she can have her own alliance. And then Nelson has his own agenda with not trying to upset or shake the veteran table, but also not putting in people that he's connected to that are on the rookie teams, as in, i.e., Olivia and Horatio.
Yes. Um, and he said, with great power comes great responsibility, you know? But I'm not responsible. So this will be interesting because his decision making has not been great in past seasons. Um, sometimes they pan out very well. Sometimes they don't, and he ends up biting the bullet. We'll see whatever plan they have this episode, how that translates for the rest of the season. Because like in a challenge, like you can have a powerful move like 1 week, but then the next week and moving forward, it could come back and bite you back in the ass.
Yeah.
And so before like they went out, Nelson and Reese had a quick chat about the plan, like what they wanted to do. And Reese said she wanted at least 2 vets into the bubble, but Nelson didn't want that. And she was like, "Listen, this is my game too. I know like you're cool with the vets, but this is my game. I'm a rookie. I gotta do what's best for me." And he said something that kind of like had me thinking, like, okay, because he said that the vet women don't like have to give her like any, I forgot that exact word, but because like the vet women didn't really talk to her, like she'd had no relationships with them, like there's a disconnect, and there's no reason for her to try and save them when he's the one that's cool with a lot of them. And it's like, and so he's like something, I forgot exactly what he said, but it was like you haven't deserved their respect, or you don't deserved um something about that. But it's just like, sir, it's the challenge. Like she just won. Like it don't matter. Like the vet girls, they can eat shit. She won. Like she can do what she wants in this decision, even though it is still with you. You just have to hear it out.
I mean, I think that's just the balance of them trying to figure out their partnership in terms of what they want to do. Because again, a partnership is trying to compromise in the middle between whatever decision that you want to make. And because they were kind of on the opposite sides of what they want to do, it was Nelson trying to be level headed and trying to hear her out, even though he wanted to go in another direction and she wanted to go in another direction. So I think that Nelson actually was like letting her know, like, hey, I've done this before. I came in the house coming after all of the vets, thinking that I was a rookie that was just going to eat everything up. And I was already full. Like, I couldn't handle anything that I was doing because the vets were just always there. They've been there for a minute, and there's a reason why they are veterans, not just people who are just there like fly by night, like people who've been doing this, who have made this show their career. And so I think that's where Nelson was coming from, with just trying to let her know, like, hey, I get it. I get that you want to be, in the mix and trying to help get out the good players so that you can help your game. But at the end of the day, when you have a partnership, you have to compromise in between. And so I think that they were doing a good job of just listening to each other, even though sometimes it didn't compute all the way. I think towards their deliberation, they were able to hear each other out and come to a compromise.
Yeah, because like with his relationships with the vets, like it's very few that he's actually close with, like in the game right now at least. So I'm like, if you just keep the vets that you are very close with, like off limits, then that's fine. You can shake the table with other vets that you don't have a relationship with. It's okay. That's just my thing too. It's like that. Yes, like the vets are working together, and it's still a little early, but still, like, hey, it is what it is at a certain point. Like, sometimes it's never too early, sometimes it's too late with striking at one another. So we'll just see how that goes later on in the season. And so at the party, Annalise and Tommy. I keep calling in my head. I keep calling them the Judices because ever since you called them that, I
They
have
are
not
giving
unseen it.
Teresa and Joe Judice. That hairline that she has going on is literally
It's a lot. Like I just can't get that out of my head because whenever I see her, I just hear you in my head saying the Judices.
okay, but she had her hairline was literally here like Teresa Judice, and I just can't unsee that. And it's so rare that people have that kind of hairline. So when I see it, I'm just like, you have to be related to a Judice, like you have to. A
Yeah,
Judice. I think at one point they were saying that it was Trudice. It's Judice, whatever.
yeah.
Anyways,
So they have a conversation and they're trying to get something to shake to kind of get them out of the zone because they know like they may be going in no matter what. And she was really worried that because what she did kind of also impacted the way that Johnny went home last week, that Nerese would put her in, which is valid. And also because y'all lied and y'all had a full on backstabbing in front of everybody in the Coliseum, that's also a factor.
I'm yeah, I mean they just fumbled, like we said earlier. They really fumbled playing that game that they did, and I think part of it too was just thinking that they thought that they would have somebody else from Big Brother on their side, and they just didn't.
Yeah. And Nelson and Reese also have a conversation with Olivia and Horacio, and he tells them that he is stuck between a rock and a hard place because of the fact that he is with the vets a little bit, but he's also um, developing something with Olivia, um, and he doesn't want to mess with anything that's going on in the house like that. But Olivia managed to hit a plan to have Nelson and Reese put them in the draw to make it seem like they're not in cahoots, and in turn, she'll make a deal with one of the other teams to save them in the draw, which is very smart. So that's no blood on his hands with the vets.
Yeah, I think it also just shows that for Nelson, it's a strong a show of good faith for him because even though he was hooking up with Olivia, the vets also saw that decision and was like, "Whoa, like you are putting this girl in that you're hooking up with." Johnny was like, I can do something that cold," and it's like, "But you stole money from Sarah, so what are you talking about?" But at the end of the day, I think that Olivia coming up with the plan and them being able to execute it is another thing. So the fact that they were able to execute the plan to the T and make sure that she goes in, but she doesn't really get touched, and he doesn't really get the short end of the sticks and gets blamed, and still can be able to move in the house. Olivia actually, she's been showing herself this whole season in a good way.
Yeah. It's very different side of her that I've been seeing from her being on Love Island. Like Love Island Love Island was also a very social game, and as we know from the USA season, the Love Island girls try to stick it through to the very end, and they try to really mingle their way with the social game. And Olivia, being from a show that has to be social as well, with those same girls, using that to her advantage with the people in house is really good on her end. And it shows that even if you're just from Love Island, you can be on a challenge and kill it. And so they go to Liberation, and Nelson and Reese have a chat. And Nelson said he wants the vets to know that he's playing a game. So we're going to put in Olivia and Horacio. Also suggested Veronica and Darrell since they came in late. I don't know if I like this notion. Like if you come in late, then you can just go in automatically. Like I don't get that logic sometimes. And like Nani said it earlier. I'm like, okay, they came in late, so what?
I mean, with that logic, her and her teeth should have won in the first time we saw her too. So She just like talking shit sometimes. I guess it was foreshadowing in the episode, but however, it still didn't make any sense because she also came in late too. So with that same mentality, somebody should have threw you into when you first came in the house. But whatever.
Yeah. And they know like they deemed Annalise and Tommy untrustworthy. And I was like, let's just throw in Colleen and Kim as well because they are the other Ricky pair. Um, and they said they want Olivia and Horacio to make deals with both Colleen and Kim and Veronica and Darrell to keep them safe. Because they're obviously gonna go into the draw. Like they really had a mindset that Tommy and Elise were gonna go in, and it's just a matter of okay, so we have people we're gonna pick set, and then it's just a matter of the draw, obviously, on who picks that safe dagger. So okay, let's just have like yo, listen, we'll try and like say, hey, you can scratch my back, scratch your back situation. Kind of similar to how last week happened, but it didn't get blown up because of the relationships and whatnot. And we end up seeing the list, which ended up being those 4 teams. And he mentioned like how Johnny was shocked, and I'm like, listen, sir, you would have done it too for a check. Oh wait, you did. Um, and then we go to interrogation, and they explain to Annalise and Tommy, like, yo, untrustworthy, can't help you out. And Nelson said, y'all keep making excuses instead of owning up to what y'all did, and it made y'all look back even more worse. So that's that on them two.
Yeah, we can move to
And
them going to the arena.
yeah. So but right before the zone, Tommy and East like they knew that they were gonna go in. They just knew. And Horacio said he didn't want to put his safety in anyone else's hands when it came to the draw. He wanted to be able to pull a safe dagger himself to keep him and Olivia safe and not have anybody try and choose for them. And Darrell said that he isn't afraid of going to donations because there isn't a crane involved, and that's where he really thrives in donations. Which last time we saw you, Darrell, you didn't do great, and I just want to say I'm sorry, but that was a bad showing. It was but also that was like a weird ending for him on All Stars. I will say, like he just gassed out.
Yeah, I mean, he went against Jordan and gassed out. That was just what it was. It wasn't nothing. He had been doing back to back to back shows. So, I mean, like we spoke about, it was not a good elimination for him to do. But nonetheless, he did it and he got sent home.
He got sent home and had a cramp, but he's back
Right.
and he's good. Um, and then we go to the zone, and Nelson and Reese, they obviously choose Annalise and Tommy. And he said he doesn't respect anyone going back on their word. And I remember I saw on social people like, you did the same thing in your rookie season. Well, look at how things happened. It is what it is. It's a challenge. Um, and then we get to the draw with everybody else. Veronica and Darrell did the first dagger. Darrell was trying to summon the challenge guys to get the right one, and I was like, "Sir, be serious for a second, because why are you trying to summon it? Why are you trying to do this all over them? Like, stop."
Yeah, I think Darrell's just trying to be funny. Um, give a little duality to the show, which he always just brings a little bit of humor, as he's
Yeah.
always on, even intentionally or unintentionally.
Yes, I respect it though because it wasn't that it hasn't been that fun in the confessionals recently, so I like that he did that. But it was just like, sir, be serious just for 1 second. um, and then Horacio and Olivia, they ended up actually pulling the safe dagger, and they chose to pick Darrell and Veronica to save. And their reasoning was really because even though they were rookies, Colleen and Kim didn't really talk game with them at all. So like that makes sense. Like, and they're like, and even like Nelson did tell Colleen and Kim, hey, talk to them. We didn't see them talk to them at all. So it makes sense for them to really like choose their own Veronica because they actually went to them and talked to them about that decision, about working with one another.
Yeah, I just think that they kept their word at the end of the day in Olivia and Horatio, and I think that's gonna go a long way for that with Darrell and Veronica, and for the rest of the house, just seeing how that happens, and then but for as for Kim and Colleen, like thinking that they should have kept another rookie pair, I get that thought process, but because the plan was already in play for them to speak with Darrell and Veronica and keep them, and they didn't. Like Olivia said, they never spoke game with Kim and Colleen. I just think it was an easier get. But if they were cooler, like if they were closer, I feel like Kim and Colleen would have had the advantage. But again, I think it was just an easier plan because of the Nelson factor and him wanting to have at least one vet team save so that it's not just an all bad look for him.
Yeah. Um, and Jordan said that he thought that my Nelson might be a mastermind for this, and I'm like, maybe, but the plan was really all Olivia. It just got executed by
Yeah.
him. And the name of this animation is called Flipping Wasted, where one player will be hovered over a mud pit with a board, while the partner pulls the board up tight so that they can reach and solve a puzzle. The first team to solve it will win, and immediately we see Tommy struggling with the rope. And Kim was had a good grip and was chilling.
I mean, this whole challenge was just hard to watch with Tommy and Annalise. I think that Tommy just didn't have the right form. He wasn't pulling very much from his. I don't know what kind of form he had. His form was all bad and wrong. He was on his tippy toes. He was on the back of his foot. He was over it. It was just all over the place. And I think just that whole it was just embarrassing. Like he literally couldn't even pick her up to the point where she could even get to reach the puzzle. Like she barely got quote unquote out of the mud. Like she barely got out of there because he literally could not move her. And while Kim and Colleen, on the other hand, Kim was able to pick Colleen up real quick, get her up there, and Colleen was actually struggling for that puzzle for a little minute. Like if there was another team that was a little bit more competent in getting their player, I mean their player, yeah, their person up. I mean, Colleen and Kim would have lost because Colleen was on that puzzle for a little minute. Like she kept trying to stay check prematurely and kept trying to see if she got it, but she really didn't until she did. But I just think the Tommy and Tommy just dropped the ball. He dropped the ball in the daily challenge. He dropped the ball in this finale in the arena, and I think that he just has to come better next time if he comes back. I just think that that was just such an embarrassment, and I kind of felt bad because it was just like, damn, like you can't even do anything. But at the same time, you put your foot in your mouth, you went against your word, and you were just doing a lot. So I just at the same time, I feel like that was just something that just came back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, like Annalise was literally a sitting duck, like couldn't do anything, and he was really holding. He was doing so much, like there was no core engaged, and he was out there looking like he was on the ice skating rink. Like he was really like uptight. Like I'm like, what? And it was so bad too because everyone was trying to help him out at least too. And at some one point, Kim was like, "Hey, get stuff off your shoe so that you can have a good grip." And nothing worked. Literally had Annalise in the mud with it splashing all on her. Like it was bad. I'm like, this, like you said, this is what you get when you keep your foot in your mouth. Like, you have bad looks and it doesn't work out for you. And I saw a lot of people too say that Tommy was really like her and Lisa's downfall, like as a partner, and she deserved better. Um, but I'm like, it is what it is at this point. Like that at the end of the day, they're still gonna be besties, and yeah. So with that, Kim and Colleen, they win this elimination. After Colleen finally figured out the puzzle, and Tommy with a crying fit afterwards. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I love you though," but he was really down on his luck.
I mean, I understand why he was emotional, and TJ was just like, you know, I'm glad that you were able to show that emotion after you lost. Like, it shows how much you wanted to win. I just feel like even though he was crying, I don't think it was because he lost. I feel like because he just lost so poorly. Like, he really couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't that she didn't have a fighting chance. And I think that was probably what was eating him up the most. But at the end of the day, like I said, you made your bed and you have to lie in it. That's all.
Yep. And with that, that is the end of the episode. But we're gonna get into these tweets from the week. There were a lot of really funny ones, but also some really interesting ones as well. The first tweet from this week was the biggest flaw that Big Brother players possess is that they come onto an entire new show still trying to play Big Brother. That was Tommy and Lisa's downfall. There was no reason for them to double cross Olivia and Horacio.
Correct.
And Donnie was like, "Yeah, y'all did it. Y'all did what y'all had to do, ma'am. Be quiet." Like she was trying to like be all like, "It's okay. Like it happens, ma'am." That was bad advice, and it was horrible. Like she was 0-2 for good moments this week and advice and commentary. The next tweet, Tommy twirling in the air like a damn May breeze really took me out. Like, what the fuck was he doing?
Yeah, well, I still don't get that. I still don't get that.
He went from being on the Titanic to being in the ice skating competition.
I It was really remarkable to see, honestly.
And let's see. Okay, Annalise tweeted, "Oh no, Sim, stop pretending like no one else on the challenge has ever went against their word. We are competing for $1 million. You gotta do what you gotta do." But man, you can go back on your word, but if you do that in front of other people, that's a different story. So I get what he was saying, but man, be serious.
I mean, she's just trying to justify why she did it, but it's too soon. Like, we don't even know you people. The first thing that we really see you in your gameplay is going to go against your word against somebody else. It's like nobody's going to take you seriously after that.
Mm-mm. Um, the next tweet is, "The world doesn't like heights, and I don't like to jump." Veronica. Same, sis. I don't
Right.
like to
I
jump.
just
I don't like to jump either. Only when I have to, but I don't like that. I don't do heights either. Like I am both Veronica and Darrell in that moment. I don't do that at all. The last tweet is from
well,
Nerese. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Okay, so the last tweet is from Nerese, and she said, "Rewatching the episode, and I'm cackling at the fact that Chauncey said Amber was the leader of the Rickies. Funniest joke I've heard, because I promise not one Ricky would agree to that."
Okay. I mean, sure, sis. Whatever. Like I said, I feel like Chauncey was just gassing up his girlfriend, and the comment came out wrong. It's probably not correct or accurate. However, I understand what Chauncey was trying to say in his comment. So you can relax, Maurice. Anyway,
Yeah, I
go
will
ahead.
say too that Nerese was getting packed up. in the name of Amber on Twitter after that tweet. Like, I get the sentiment. I get it. It looks crazy that what he said, but that's his woman. He gonna try, like you said, he gonna try and gas her up in the best way he can. He just fumbled the wording. That's it.
Right. I mean, it is what it is. This is only episode 4 of this. We will be back next week to talk more about the challenge. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow at Duel Alliance Pod. You can follow our personal pages. Megan's page is at Megan Hines.
And
My
Alicia
page
is at.
underscore is Spry, Megan. And and you can follow our YouTube page at Duel Alliance Pod. We'll be back next week again. Like I said, happy November. Set your time clocks for the last time in your life to go back because daylight saving times is not a real thing. Thank you guys for listening. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.